Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I'm excited here, y'all, because our next two speakers are brand new to the MBM stage. And one of them is going to be doing their first time public speaking engagement ever. And I am super excited for this. But that person doesn't come for a little bit. This next speaker was introduced to me by Jeremy Howe with the Moxie Mindset community. And when Jeremy reached out to me 2 or 3 weeks ago and said, I need you to meet Rayven Owens, I said, cool. I love to meet new people and I love to bring new people into the summit. And with Jeremy, I didn't even question it. I've known Jeremy and his lovely wife since November of 2024. Jeremy has been on the summit with us. I think he's only missed one over 2025, so he's been on 5 summits with us. And Rayven and I were able to get on a call a couple weeks ago, and I got to hear her incredible, powerful story that I'm not going to give anything away on because I can't do it justice. And I knew immediately with the smile that, trust me, is contagious, y'all. When she smiles through the screen, she's going to make all of us smile. She's got this energy, this passion, this love for people that's going to make your heart expand like into levels that will make it resonate for years to come. And with what Rayven is going to be bringing to the mountain, we have never had here before. We've had that throughout the last day and a half. But what Rayven is going to be bringing, buckle up, lace up those boots, put on a warm jacket, and get ready, like I said before, Chris, because what is going to be bringing here in the next half hour is going to change your life. Rayven, the summit is yours.
Okay, got it. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. And oh my God, David, what an amazing experience this has been so far. And thank you for that introduction. Oh my goodness. Wow. And thank you to Jeremy for introducing me to you. I just love him to pieces. He's been an amazing force in my life and in helping me to manage and navigate some challenges I've been having. So I appreciate you both. And hello, everyone. Again, I'm Rayven. And so thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. And when David invited me to speak, I reflected on the theme of this summit being this, ignite the spark, the time is now. And I thought about what is it that ignites my spark? And it was brought to my memory of all the trials that I've endured and overcame at a very pivotal point in my life is what ignites my spark. And I realized that it was in this struggle to overcome those trials is what had been preparing me all along for this moment in time. And so my time is now to step with all confidence into my purpose and to do the type of work that I'm called to do. So how did I get here? What are those trials? How did I overcome them? And what is the work that I'm doing? So I don't know, did any one of you ever hear of The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell? Thanks, Megan. Awesome. So I'm going to do a very modified version of that as I tell my story. Okay, and keep in mind, it's really modified. And so let's begin the first stage of my journey, which begins with my existence within my ordinary assumptive world. In 2001, I was a 15-year veteran New York City police officer. I had earned my spot in an elite all-male unit. It was a tactical training unit due to my martial arts background. I had wonderful friends. I had 5 older brothers, no sisters, that loved me dearly, and an amazing mom that at 101 years old, she's still very amazing. I had strong Christian values, and I was born and raised in the church, and I served in ministry. So all was well in my assumptive world until it wasn't. So I entered the second stage of my journey, an unintentional adventure. On the morning of September 11th, two, excuse me, 2001, the World Trade Center terrorist attacks occurred. I was the first responder, and my unit and we got there just when the South Tower came down, the second tower came down. And so I will, because of these tears, I'm going to spare you the gory details of my experience. But I will say that standing in the middle of chaos, covered in ash, hearing screams, and seeing so many people hurt and in shock, coupled with the fact that I lost some coworkers that were really good friends of mine, something happened to my psyche and my spirit that day. It became split off. And at the time, I didn't realize what was happening to me because I was distracted by working so many long hours at Ground Zero. But as the time went by and the hours lessened and I spent more time at home, that's when I entered my third stage, which is the darkest night of my soul. And it felt like an extreme ego death. I became angry and disappointed at God, the God that I loved so much, the God of my understanding. And I isolated myself because once those images got in me, I created my own hiding space where no one can find me, where no one can see my pain, my vulnerability and fear, and worst of all, the hatred that I had developed. And it wasn't the way I was raised because I remember something. I was the only woman in this unit, right? And so my reputation as a fighter preceded me. And so I refused to let the men that I worked with see me in this way and see me so rattled. And so this is part of the ego death, right? So I suffered in silence with classic symptoms of PTSD, revisioning, sensory overload. I was hearing sirens and ambulances going off when there were no sirens and ambulances. I was at home, I wasn't working. And the nightmares were consistent. So fast forwarding, I learned about a program for police officers called PAPA, and that's police officers providing peer assistance. And so, because I knew something was off and that I couldn't continue in this way, I joined that support group where I learned that I wasn't the only one suffering with those symptoms. Because if you know the NYPD, if you tell them that you're hearing things that are not there and seeing things and having nightmares, they will take your guns. They will take your guns, they'll put you on modified assignment, that you may lose your pay, and your family will definitely be affected. And other police officers may not want, they may not trust working with you. But this group was unique because it was supervised by clinicians, but it was all police officers that were having the same experience, and it was outside of the job. So we could speak freely about what was going on. And so the group helped me so much. I went away and I learned to become a peer support officer. And some of you might be too young to remember what a beeper is. Anybody remember? So I managed a beeper once a month where I would answer calls from police officers in crises as well, officers that were thinking of taking their lives because of heavy stressors, officers that may have been engaged in some substance use or alcoholism and other existential crises. And so I loved doing that so much and helping in that way. I also went back to school and became a licensed psychotherapist and a transpersonal psychologist. I went away to Germany for 3 years and I started studying holotropic breathwork. And I became a holotropic breathwork facilitator because it helped me so much in my healing. I mean, it took my healing to a whole different level. And no longer was I angry with God. I understood God in more of a personal relationship with the Spirit of God. And so, what I've found, Michael, is this type of self-care and community and not in isolation is what helped me to enter into that fourth stage, the return with the elixir. And the elixir I emerged with was my transformation. And I could only describe it as a revelation from a higher source, with a knowing that to answer a call in a different way, in a different kind of service beyond law enforcement, is where I was meant to be. And this is where the hero journey comes to full circle, to hosting my first retreat in the beautiful Riviera Maya, where I'll be conducting breath work and shamanic shadow work in an environment that supports healing and transformation in community. And the funny thing is, someone asked me this recently, and it was quite cynical the way they asked me. And it was, why are you hosting this retreat now, especially at a time when there's so much going on in the world? And I thought, yes, there is a lot going on in the world. And people are answering the call to what's going on in very powerful and sacrificial ways, right? The monks are walking for peace. Protesters are standing up for freedom and democracy. And even the Pope in the Vatican is speaking out for peace. And so I answered the question with all assurity, why not now? Especially at this particular moment in time. And while others are doing their part in these times, and I respect it, I have a different calling and a different assignment. It's in helping individuals manage their own internal heaviness from the energy that's spreading, like whom the tribes like the Cree, the Blackfoot, and the Obajibwe call Wetiko. And Wetiko operates by covert infestation of the human psyche, causing individuals to act against their own interests. It compels human beings through toxic selfishness, destruction for profit, massive hoarding of wealth, promoting suffering without compassion, dehumanizing others, hurting the animals, the sacred waters, the sacred land, and exploiting our natural resources. But according to the Cree, Wetiko is non-local, right? Meaning it doesn't have any substantive, tangible existence except in our minds and our spirits. And so it can be changed. It's born from our disconnection of the natural order of things that has already been set in place. And so my retreat is necessary, but definitely not for everyone. It's for the courageous who want to face their own inner demons and experience transformation on a micro level, so powerful that the light that they gain from the experience for themselves, they'll be able to spread it also like a virus. This light that will touch the greater community, starting with us individually. And so I thank you for the opportunity to share my story, and I'll open it up for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Raven. I remember when you told me the piece about your experience with 9/11, and that hit me hard because none of us can really understand the impact that that could make unless you were physically down at ground zero when everything happened. Um, and when you told me that you were willing to share that piece of your story, um, I was truly grateful for your bravery on that. So thank you for your bravery on that and stepping in and sharing everything about what you're about. So thank you for that. So
You're
I'm
most
gonna
welcome.
thank you. I am gonna open it up to the Zoom room now. Everybody in Zoom, there's no political discussions gonna happen during this piece. Okay, I want to make that clear. Keep that out of that what we're building here, please. And let's just do what we're here to be called to do. Um, you know, our world is very unsteady right now, and it's at a breaking point. And this community stands with loving and supporting, and I do support everyone here and their viewpoints, but I don't want to have any dialogue regarding any political discussions on this platform during this summit. So I just wanted to make that clear. So we're going to open up the Zoom room. Deb, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, David, and thank you for that housekeeping note, which is crucial. Emotions run high. Raven, hi.
Hi, honey.
How are
Hi,
you
Deb.
doing?
I'm better now that I don't usually share that story, but it felt good. And although I got really emotional, I feel powerful in standing on
Mm.
that.
You are seen, you are heard, you are powerful.
Thank you.
When I had my screen off because I was stuffing my face, I had my camera off, and when you asked, familiar with Joseph Campbell, I was just talking about him earlier, and although I was talking the Masks of God, and love the hero's journey, and I love how you are a modern day representation of Joseph's heroine, hero, hero. I'm an actor. Hero. It is what it is. 9/11. I was in Stamford, Connecticut. So first, foremost, thank you for your service. I love New York so much. Get back as often as I can. And so thank you for your 15 years, veteran NYPD. Whew, I mean, that alone. And then it's almost that quirky things happen for a reason. I mean, that was a big thing to happen. And fortunately it didn't just morph you. It morphed many in positive as well as not. And to David, as far as not, being ground zero, Stanford seemed ground zero enough for me. I
Mm.
were driving by on the Washington Bridge, going to the Jersey Shore, and still seeing everything smoldering a week after the flag. You remember the flag
Yeah, yeah.
on the bridge, Anywho, all of that. I have so many questions, but
Let me
it'll
just
be.
say one thing, Deb.
Mhm.
I did continue on. I didn't stop. I did a little over, I'm 61 years old. So I
No, you're
did a
not.
little over 20. I did over 20 years. So I completed my
Oh,
time there. Yeah.
dang.
We didn't quit. We kept going.
Of course you didn't quit. Um, so while I have many questions that may have to be a prologue another time, a coffee together, whatever, but the pivotal moment, the dark night of the soul.
Mm.
I don't know, was there a date? What was the exact impetus? Because you'd obviously been carrying.
Mhm.
And the system is set up in such a fashion because what you said, they'd take your gun, you'd have clerical duty. No one wants that. Remember that, David. No one wants that, but some people are willing to do clerical duty. I'm just saying. um but was there a moment? What was the impetus during that dark night of the soul that was it just learning of the group, or you tell me?
Okay, got it. So I did 52 tours at Ground Zero from day one when the second tower came down. So those hours were long. You may get one day off, but then you had to be back early. Because I was in the tactical training unit, I was at checkpoints, right? So we weren't doing martial arts and training the recruits. We were on the street, and this is what we were called to do. And so we would show up every day, face straight, uniform squared away, ready to do the work. But when I got home, the pivotal moment was after those tours, and I was left alone by myself. And I had, and I can speak about this because I did my work, right? Many years, I didn't just arrive at this, many years of doing my work. And when I said I developed a different relationship with the God of my understanding, where I understand the Creator to be a spirit, this is my, not imposing my view on anyone else. I had my shotgun on my bed, my Bible, and 5 firearms around me with a 9mm in my mouth. I had so much hatred for people that were from the Middle East, and I wasn't raised that way. And this is how I knew something was tearing away at my spirit. And but I promise you, blue is significant for me. The color blue, not only the police uniform, but a blue light that pulled that gun out of my mouth. And I never went back in that space again. That was the darkest night. All of the circumstances surrounding it, the PTSD, the sensory overload, the nightmares, the constant peal of sirens, and the hearing of bodies hitting the ground, seeing people. These were the gory details that I really didn't want to share, but they're pretty ugly. And to carry that and not have an outlet, it gets in you. Those images, that spirit gets in you. And you kind of like, if you're not guarded spiritually, and I have to, this is my belief system, it will take control. And it will take you to a dark place. But the light to me was the love of the Creator. For me, it's saying, not now, daughter, not now. And not by your own hands. That's not what, my name is Mary Rayven Emmanuel Owens. That's my full name. And so I understand that blessed am I among women. And blessed is the fruit of my labor. So the pivotal moment was coming to terms that I have the power to take life and also give it. And it was in the releasing of the taking of life that my life changed, began to change. And the message and the information that, hey, you don't have to go through the job. There's a group that will help you. And that information just came to me through a dear friend. So thank
Clearly,
you.
you were ready to receive that message after that incredibly dark night. And thank you so much for opening up.
Sure.
You are loved.
And
You
I
are.
love you too. Thank you, Deb. Thank you
Thank,
so much for that question.
thank you, Mary. Deb,
Catch.
thank you for the question. Sierra, what do you got?
Um, so my aunt was a doctor in New York during 9/11
Uh,
and she rarely talks about it. And one story I remember her saying is how she remembers fixing up, first responders for them to just go back out and who knew if they were going to live, right? And I just sat here as you were talking and I felt like you were just speaking to my soul. That dark night is not something that a lot of people recover from or make it through. And I'm glad you did, because the depths of your womb that you have gone to is the medicine that this world needs, right? And you're doing what you're here to do. And I'm just so blessed to witness you in this moment. And I would love to connect with you, and be able to get to know you more, because you have such a beautiful story and a beautiful purpose here. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sierra. I love your name.
Thank you.
And there's a reason why, like, even Austin didn't know what Raven was going to bring today. I kept this one extremely close to the chest because of the power of what Raven was going to bring. And I'm not saying I'm diminishing anybody else's story here, okay? But this one was very unique and very different from anything that we've had on the mountain. And when 9/11 comes up, it brings back a lot of memories. And I'll never forget where I was when 9/11 happened. Obviously, I was not in New York. I was a senior in high school. And when it happened, I walked into my first period class and I thought we were watching a movie. And then life changed immediately as soon as that happened. And so I kept this, like I said, I kept this one extremely, extremely close to the chest. Only Jeremy and Rayven and I knew what was about to go down today. So, James, what do you got, brother?
Can I just address Sierra really quick?
Yeah, Sarah, come back on
Yeah.
if you can.
I'm here.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, honey.
Hi.
So I just want you to know that, yeah, it's a deep soul wound, but it can be recovered. You can retrieve that part of your soul, but it takes work. It takes courage to go into the depths of that darkness. But I will encourage anyone that you know or anyone that's suffering in this way and still triggered, that there is help and that they can do it. And so to come with their fear, come with their apprehension, and be ready to face that shadow, because that's where their strength and the overcoming is. That's where it is.
I love that. I agree. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Love you, Sarah. You know, you're my feisty little sister, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So you always challenge us, and I love that. All right. I don't know who went here with their hands up first, but bro, you know how I work. Ladies first. So, Tish, go ahead. He's not going to say anything until you do.
James was actually before me.
I know.
I have a little sister named Mary. So Mary,
Oh, hi, Tish.
hi, Mary, Mary, quite contrary.
Yes, how does my garden grow? With
Oh,
cucumbers? No, I'm just kidding.
you took my breath away. And I was at Richard Nixon's presidential library years ago when the Freedom Tour was there. And there was a pillar from one of the towers on a, I'm not sure I can even share this, on a flatbed of a semi, and also the foam truck 331 was there. And I don't remember the number of the other fire truck that was there. And as I walked up to that flatbed and saw that massive steel beam just looked like a pretzel, I could hear the voices.
I hope, I hope.
I could feel the emotions. So God bless you for being there and coming through. I'm not going to say coming over to the other side, because it's you just transformed into a different you. I'm not even going to say a better you, because we're all the bestest copy of our bestest person anyway. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just
So
can't
much.
even imagine, and I pray every day for those that were there, those that fought, those that recovered. And I was at Ground Zero in Oklahoma City when they recovered the last body. And as we stood there and the 9/11 dedication was also talked about, I thought to myself, when we have moments like this, and I don't share a lot of it, I don't talk about it, but because you came on and I was just drawn to you, and I would love to be able to reach out to you as well.
Anytime.
Yes. And one of my best projects I ever worked on was working with the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians here in Mississippi.
Ah,
So yeah, what a whole new world.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
So much. And Tish, I want to, as you brought something to mind when you talked about the flatbed and the pillar. And lest I take all the glory, we had so many wonderful officers that day. My unit, ESU, emergency service units, at the fire department, a lot of us came together. It wasn't just me. It's just one story, but there's so many. And if you guys ever get the opportunity to get to the Freedom Tower and to hear the the stories from others, I encourage you to do that, because the ones that were lost, they are the true heroes. They're the ones that ran into the building. We got there just in time when the towers came down, but I didn't go in. They went in, didn't have a second thought. So I want to give respect to them as well. So thank you for your prayers for all of us.
Of course, Mary. And if there's anything that the MBM family can do for you and anyone that's been through something like that, we're here. That's why this movement, this community has been built, is for everyone here and anybody out there that has been through a trauma. And so know that you're stuck with the green and black. I know Jeremy's got his, you have Jeremy in your life, but you're now part of the green and black. And like Deb said, you've just inherited more than just friends. This is a family, and this is a unique family here because we've all experienced loss in some way. Now, this is a different area that we've experienced here before, but I hate using that word. With that being said, just know that we're always here. I'm only a message away, and you know Jeremy is, and always know that you can bring anybody here to the summits, and we would love to be able to provide love and support in any way that we can, okay?
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. James, what you got, my brother?
Let me preface before I talk. Raven, nothing that I want to say is surface level, so I hope it doesn't hit surface level. Because when I say thank you for your service and your dedication, it's coming from a place that my stepdad was in the fire department in New Jersey for a long time. We knew people in New York. We had friends in New York. We had family both on the fire and police side. And when that happened, world changed for everyone. So like I definitely understand that. And then also in my experience, going into the fire academy in '06 and serving as a volunteer fireman myself throughout the years, I know the level of courage that takes, because what we would consider normal, most people don't, and nothing about that was even our level of expectation, preparation. Like nothing prepares you for a catastrophic event such as that, let alone to manage it under the guidance of our creator and our savior. There's just no way to process any of that. And I know that soul dampening, soul strangulation is what I call it, because it just cuts you off from all sorts of anything positive, joy. It cuts off the relationship and connection to Christ and the creator. It cuts off, it makes you feel totally isolated, and it makes you feel that everything that you've ever done was just why, right? Like, and I don't want to kind of relive your experience because that's your experience, but I relate to that. I want to paraphrase this because this was just like, like just throwing at my face when you said people are cynically asking, why are you doing this now? I'm sure you're going to know it once I start talking it, but it says, yet who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this.
As this. Mm-hmm.
Who knows, right? We know who knows. And there is no coincidence. There is no accidentals. There is no happenstance. The circumstances, however difficult or however pivotal, they're not just occasional things that happen. They are designed and they're opportunities for us to serve a higher purpose and a higher calling. And I want you to know that I don't know you, but I'm spiritually proud of you. I am soulfully inspired and rooting for you because and I'm not going to disrespect Dave because I love Dave, but you got to be willing to confront and challenge the issues that nobody talks about in order to go for a resonation and an understanding to grow. If we consistently ignore the things that people are emotionally structured or tense about, we'll never make a difference. Doesn't mean we have to fight them the way that people are fighting them currently, because my hero stood against accusations and never said a word.
Ah,
He loved anyway. And then when my hero was beaten, battered, and bruised and tortured, the only one of the 7 things he said was, "Forgive them. They know not what they do." So in a world that has no idea what it's doing, I'm so glad that you stood up and said, "Here I am, send me." And I just want to say absolute gratitude and grace. I appreciate you opening a side of you that you don't talk about.
mm,
And I want to let you know that that needed to be said today. And I'm glad you were obedient in saying it.
oh,
Dave,
James.
that wasn't disrespecting me.
I
Aside
know, buddy, but I wanted to preface, man.
No,
Yeah.
Mary, I'm sorry to cut you off. That's what I wanted to hear. A lot of times I've had people in the past, not on this specific one or anything, but 3 or 4 summits ago, that that stuff has happened. When it comes to JC, to Jesus Christ, I have no problem with that. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that is vitally important to bring up because our top core value in my personal life and in my business life with MBM is faith. And that's where it's at. That's a non-negotiable. So I'm proud of you for challenging me on that and thank you for doing that, but just know that was no disrespect on my part. So thank you.
All good. Just wanted to preface and just
And
wanted to show love for Rayven.
Go ahead, Mary.
thank you so much. I felt that, James. I felt your sentiments and I felt it deeply, and I believe you. Um, and I want to say that, like 9/11, and why, well, when I spoke about the monks and the people that are protesting, I think I just wanted to draw attention to the human condition, right? And how different folk approach healing and wanting resolution without the brutality of it, and wanting, like 9/11, when everyone came together, Americans stood together no matter what the background, no matter what the belief system, Jews, Gentiles, Christians, we all came together for the common good of restoration. And so I think when I brought attention to that, I'm so sorry, I did not want to disrespect your platform at any level. And I definitely don't want to go into the politics of this. For me, this is about the spirituality and
Yes.
seeing and finding God in everything
Yes.
and in everyone. Although like I said, our assignments may be different. And I just wanted to say there is a human condition. And my assignment is to address it on a micro level so that that light shines forth. So
Rayven
James, thank you for that, too, giving me the opportunity to speak a little further.
and
Thank
Rayven, there was
Uh-huh.
nothing like that. So
I gotta keep looking. You guys shifting around, and y'all know I'm
I
half
know.
blind.
And I know, ladies and gentlemen, we could keep going on with this. And maybe at the end of tonight, if people want to come back and, well, what I typically do at the end of these summits, I keep the Zoom room open for a half hour, 45 minutes, so people can come in and ask questions to other speakers because I know there's a speaker here that was in New York that impacted them in a big way. And maybe by the end of today, they might have the courage to ask that question, Raven, because your story impacted them. And so, maybe we can have a dialogue at the end of this, because I would love to keep this going because your testimony, your story is incredibly powerful, and this can continue to go for another hour. And I have a hard time on stopping people. James, Michael, and Austin know that about me. What I wanted to clarify was just the faith side of things with me. That is the biggest piece that I always strongly encourage everybody that wants to share their faith. I highly encourage that, okay? Because I lost my faith after Joey died, and I'll share that at a later date, okay? Rayven, you are incredible. You are powerful, and I knew that this was gonna ignite the Zoom room because of what you were going to bring. And that's why maybe later tonight or maybe next week or maybe tomorrow we'll do a bonus feature. I don't know. We'll talk about it. But
Okay,
we're going to
I'll make myself available. So thank you everyone for listening and for having me, David.
You're
Thank you
very
so
welcome.
much. Okay.
You're very welcome, Raven. You did incredible.